All right, so this one's for Philly. I know most of y'all have probably already heard about the Lombard Street riot, but for everybody else, I need to know, have you ever heard of it? Because this wasn't just a riot, this was a massacre. But it's also a story of strength. So let's set the scene. August 1st, 1842, and Lombard Street was alive. You could hear the music, see the bright colors of the parade, and feel the pride in the air. More than 1,000 black men and women, members of the Young Men's Vigilant Association, were out in their finest, celebrating the 8th anniversary of the abolition of slavery in the British West Indies. And you might wonder, why were they celebrating freedom in the British Caribbean? Because for them, it was proof that freedom was possible. It was a reminder that black people could fight, win, and be free, even if it was in another part of the world. It was hope. It was a promise. For them, this was their Independence Day, a day to celebrate freedom, just like the 4th of July, just like Cinco de Mayo. But while they were celebrating freedom, they were surrounded by people who didn't even want them to have it. And that's where the trouble began. Now, here's what you have to understand. The North was supposed to be a safe haven for black people. That's what they tell you, right? The South was racist, but the North was free. But the truth, the North had its own brand of hate. And Philly was a great example. On one side, you had a growing black community. People were working, building businesses, creating a life. But on the other side, you had poor, working class white immigrants, mostly Irish, who were struggling just as much. They were desperate for jobs, for stability, and in their eyes, black people were the competition. It wasn't just that they were mad, it was fear, it was jealousy, and it was pure hate. And on that hot August day, seeing black people proud, dressed in their best, celebrating freedom, that was too much for them. A mob of white men, mostly poor working class Irish immigrants, started to gather. Some say they were drunk, fired up by their own frustration. They didn't see people celebrating freedom, they saw people they wanted to destroy. They attacked, they rushed into the parade, fists swinging, sticks cracking against bodies. But they didn't stop there. This wasn't just a fight, it was a full on assault. They stormed into black neighborhoods, smashing windows, breaking down doors, setting homes on fire. The Second African Presbyterian Church burned to the ground. Smith's Hall, a place where abolitionist meetings were held, up in flames. Houses and businesses looted. Black residents were dragged out, beaten in the streets, and some of them nearly killed. 3 days of chaos, blood, and fire. Black men, women, and children were attacked in their own streets. Their homes turned to ash. But here's the part they don't want you to know. Our people didn't just lay down, they fought back. They defended their homes, their families, and their freedom. At the center of it all was Robert Purvis, one of Philadelphia's most outspoken black leaders. When the mob came for his home, Purvis didn't run. He stood on all 10, on his front steps, armed and ready to defend himself and his family. It took a Catholic priest pleading with the mob to leave him alone. And when the dust settled, here's what you have to remember. They didn't leave. They rebuilt. They stayed. Now you might wonder, why didn't they just pack up and leave? It would have been easy to give up, to run somewhere else. But leaving wasn't an option for most. Philly was their home. They had churches, businesses, families, they had roots. And as dangerous as it was still different from the South. Because in the South, the violence wasn't just mobs. It was the law, it was sheriffs, judges, politicians, and slave patrol, all working together to keep black people down. In the North, even with all the hate, they had a chance to fight back, a chance to be seen, and a chance to rebuild. And that's why this story is so important, because it's a reminder that no matter where they went, our people had to fight. Whether it was against mobs in the North or lynch mobs backed by the law in the South, they stood their ground, they fought, they built, they survived. And here's the part they really tried to erase. When the dust settled, when the fires died down, who paid the price? Who got punished? Did the white mob get arrested? Were they charged for burning homes, for beating people in the streets? Nope. Most of them walked away free. The few who were caught faced minor charges, if any. But black residents, they were blamed. The city even tried to twist the story, making it seem like the black community started the violence. Sound familiar? Because that's what they do. They blame the victims, rewrite the story, and hope nobody notices. But this story didn't stay buried. Almost 2 centuries later, a group of students in Philly learned about the Lombard Street Massacre in their history class. And they didn't just move on, they fought to make sure it was remembered. They petitioned the city to put up a historical marker at Star Garden, a reminder of what happened, a reminder of the truth. And that's why it's so important to know your history, because they'll try to erase it, they'll try to hide it. But as long as we remember, they can't make it disappear. So shout out to those students for keeping this story alive. And shout out to those who fought back in 1842 and never gave up. Because every time you hear somebody say the North was a safe haven for black people, remember Lombard Street. Because the truth is, freedom in America has always been a fight. And y'all already know the algorithm does not like these stories. So remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe for more stories that they won't put in your textbook. Peace.